Hi, this is pre-algebra topic for lesson 1. Before we jump into lesson 1, let's do a quick overview of topic 4. Topic 4 is about analyzing and solving percent problems. So let's look at some vocabularies that might be useful and see the skills that you've already learned and review so that you're ready for this topic. Okay, let's look at page 219, review what you know. Choose the best term from the box, write it on the blank. 1. A blank is a ratio in which the first term is compared to 100. Is it a percent, proportion, rate, or ratio? It is a percent. Percent is a ratio in which the first term is compared to 100. Okay. Number 2, a ratio that relates two quantities with different units of measure is a blank. It's a rate. Okay. You use rate to compare different units. Number 3, a statement that two ratios are equal is called a, you have two options, proportion. Yes, whenever you have fractions, you have a proportion, two ratios that are equal to, that is a proportion. Proportion needs an equal sign, okay? And lastly, number 4 should be the relationship. 3 students out of 5 students is an example of a ratio, okay? So you need to know these words for topic 4. Take a moment to see if you remember how to solve these problems. Come back when you're ready for answers. Number 5, okay? Check your answers. 0.29 in fraction would be 29 over 100. And in percentage, that's 29%. Number 6, 35%. In fraction, it should be 35 over 100 or 7 over 20 if you simplify it, right? And in decimal, that should be 0.35. Okay. Number 7, 2 over 5 is a fraction, so convert that to a decimal. That's also 4 out of 10. So that's going to be 0.4. And percentage-wise, it's a 40%, not 4%. Remember that, okay? 0.4 is 0.40. Number 8, find the unknown number in each proportion. And you're just checking your answer, okay? Come when you are ready for answers. So X days, using the proportion, X days over 4 years should be equivalent to the same proportions, 365.25 days over 1 year. So if you divide 4 years by 4 to get 1, you need to do the same thing to X. X divided by 4 is 365.25. So if you multiply it, that is going to be your X, right? X divided by 4 is 365.25. So X is equal to 365.25 times 4, which is 1,461. And in a similar way, in number 9, you need to look at the proportion. 33,264 over X should be equivalent to 5,280 over 1. So solving for X, it should be 3.6 miles. Or number 10, a cooking machine shows a photo of a main dish on the front cover of 5 out of the 12 issues it publishes each year. Write and solve a proportion to determine how many times a photo of a main dish will be on the front cover during the next 5 years. So first, write a proportion. 5 over 12 is equal to X over 60 could be one proportion. And you can simplify that to 5 over 1 is equal to x over 5. If you want to try to solve it, right? So yeah, for proportions, if you can divide these two, you can do that. But just if that makes you uncomfortable, then don't do it if you're not sure, okay? But you can do that, yeah, for proportions. And then you can solve for x. You should get the same answer whether or not you solve the first proportion or the second proportion. They're basically the same thing. X should be 25. So what does that mean in words? In 5 years, a photo of a main dish will be on the front cover 25 times. Okay. Okay, now let's look at the first lesson, analyze percents of numbers. In this lesson, you'll be able to understand, find, and analyze percents of numbers. Let's look at solve and discuss a question. Jamie's older brother and his 3 friends want to split the cost of lunch. They also want to leave an additional 15% to 20% tip. How much should each person pay? Okay, so if you live in the States, you do have to pay a tip. Okay, it's not like China where you just pay for the menu price and then you're done, right? You have to pay tip. But it usually is around 15% to 20% of how much you would pay for the menu price. Okay, so depending on how much you spend, your tip would be about 15 to 20%. So look at their menu. Okay, let's close up. So party of 4, they got 2 hamburgers that cost $8.99 each, kale salad, 2 kale salads, veggies, 4 veggie sides, 2 oranges, 2 spring water, and 4 milkshakes. Okay, so total 4 of them spent $73.24 with the tax. The whole total is $78 total. And you want to find the tip, the amount of tip from 78, okay? So if they tip 15% of the 78, you would get blank, right? And then if they tip 20%, you will get blank. But they're thinking of tipping 15 to 20%. So you want the minimum tip and the maximum tip. So which line of the receipt will you use to calculate the tip? $78. If they tip 15%, then you can multiply 0.15, which is the decimal of 15%, times $78, and that is 11 and 7. Okay, so the total with the tip with 15% tip is 78 plus 11.70, which is 89.7. And if you divide it by 4 people, then each person has to pay. Divide 89.7 by 4, because there are 4 people, which is $22.43. So to get each person's pay, which is 22.43. But that is when you pay for 15% tip. Okay, what about 20% tip? Then you have to do the same thing. If they tip 20%, then you multiply 0.2 by 78. And what do you get? What do you get? 15.6. Okay, and then you add 78 plus 15.6 to get $93.6. Okay, and then divide 93.6 by 4 to get how much they pay per person, because they're going to share it equally, which is 23.4. So every person will pay 23.4 when they're tipping 20%. Okay, so it's not too different. So they can decide how they're going to tip together. Okay, let's look at focus on math practices. How would the amount each person pays change if the tip is determined before or after the bill is split? Ooh. So would the order matter? If you tip before the split versus if you tip after the split? If each person tips the same percentage, then the percentage for 23.4 for each person would add up to the same percentage total, right? Then the amount each pays will be the same, whether they determine the tip before or after the bill, because it's a percentage. Okay, that's how percentages work. If each person, so let's write that down. Okay, but you just have to make sure that each person pays the same percentage. If they pay a different percentage and they tip differently, then that's obviously going to be different. So as long as the percentage stays the same for everyone, it shouldn't matter. All right, let's look at the examples. Our lesson essential question is how the percents show the relationship between quantities. Example 1, 5% of numbers. Diego starts a 12-hour road trip with his phone's battery charge at 75%. Given his normal usage, will his phone last the whole trip without any battery charges? Okay, so when the phone is 100% in battery charge, he'd be able to use 15 hours. And at 75, you don't know how many hours that would be left. But you can think about the proportions to see how many hours would be left when it's 75% charged. Okay, so how many hours will the phone last when the battery charges at 75% using the proportion? 75% is how much from 100 is what you're going to think of. Okay, so you need to come up with a ratio and write a proportion and figure out how many hours. Okay, we've done this before. So step 1, you're going to draw a bar diagram. You can draw a bar diagram to write equivalent ratios. So if this is 100% and that's your maximum hours, 15 hours, 75% should be X hours. Okay, and so write a proportion. 75 over 100 is equal to X over 15. Step 2, you're going to use the equivalent ratios to find 75% of 15. So in order to figure out X, how many hours, you're going to find the 75% of the 100% hours, which is 15 hours, okay? So 0.75 times 115 is going to be 11.25. So 75% of 15 hours is 11.25 hours. So the remaining battery life is about 11.25 hours. So will the phone last the whole 12-hour trip? 11.25 hours is less than 12 hours, so it's not gonna last the whole trip, is the answer. Okay, let's look at the try question. Kita's phone had a fully charged battery. With normal usage, her phone will last 18 hours. How much time is left on Kita's phone battery with 12% charge remaining? Whoa, her phone's about to die. But her phone has a bigger hours for 100%. So her phone battery life is greater than our previous person. Okay, so 100%, she can use 18 hours. But you want to find 12% out of 100. 100% is 18 hours. Okay, so how many hours? X hours for 12%, right? So figure out X by solving this proportion. 12 times 18 is equal to X over 18 times 18. You multiply 18 both sides to get rid of this 18, and X is equal to 12 times 18 divided by 100, which is 2.16. 16. So Kita's phone battery only has 2.16 hours remaining. Okay. Why is 51% of a number more than half of the number? What is half in percentage? Half. Half is 1/2. And 1/2 is 50%, right? And 50% is less than 51%. So that's why 51% of a number is more than half of the number, okay? Let's look at example 2. Use percents greater than 100%. A full set of adult teeth includes 160%, as many teeth as a full set of baby teeth. How many teeth are there in a full set of adult teeth? Okay, look at the diagram. We got an upper teeth, lower teeth. We have 20 baby teeth. And there are different types of baby teeth. You have 4 central incisors, A and F. Ooh, we're learning so much about the teeth right now. 4 lateral incisors, B and G. So they cut like scissors. So that's why they're called incisors. Okay, 4 cuspids, C and H. 4 first molars, D and I. 4 second molars, E and J. And then, yeah, those are the bigger ones. Okay, so use the bar diagram to write the equivalent ratios, then solve for t to find the number of adult teeth. So yeah, 160% as many means it's more than 100%, right? 100% of baby teeth is 20 teeth, right? 20 baby teeth. But adult teeth, you have more than that. So it's going to be more, greater than 100%, which is 160%. Okay, doubling would represent 200%. If you have 100%, 200% is another 100%. So that's a double. Okay, 160% is a little bit less than double. So you can maybe try to estimate, oh, 20 times 2 is a double, 40. So adult teeth should be less than 40. That is a reasonable thinking. Okay, if you ever want to check your answers, that could be reasonable thoughts. So use the bar diagram to write equivalent ratios. If 100% is 20 baby teeth, 160% is how many adult teeth. Similarly, you're going to write a proportion. 160 over 100 is equal to t over 20. And what is t? You multiply 20 on both sides. 160 times 20 over 100 is 32. So a full set of adult teeth should include 32 teeth is the answer. Okay? So the way you solve would be the same, even though your percentage might be greater, but just make sure that your numbers got greater, not less. Okay, 160 is obviously greater than 100%. So if you started with 20 baby teeth, you need to end up with a number that's greater than 20. If you got a number less than 20, then you did something wrong. Okay. Example 3, use percents less than 1%. Ooh. Okay, what about this example? What is the approximate distance in miles from Earth to the moon? We know that the distance from the Earth to the sun is 93 million miles. And 0.27% of the distance between the sun and the Earth is another given information. So if we think that this is 100%, and you know this distance is going to be 0.27%. And notice this is a percent. So in decimal, this is going to be 0.0027. It's not 0.27. 0.27 is 27%. There's a common mistake there. Okay. First, you're going to draw a bar diagram. Obviously, it's going to be super thin. 0.27% should be less than 1%, and 1% out of 100 is very small. Okay. And so 93 million miles is 100%. And so write a proportion x over 93 million is equal to 0.27 over 100. Okay, 0.27% over 100%. So this is a proportion, this is a percent proportion, that is a miles proportion. And then you're going to solve for x, multiply both sides by 93 million miles, and then you do the math. Your distance from Earth to the moon is 251,100 miles. That's still a big number, but compared to the distance to the sun, it's very small. Okay, so if you have a percentage less than 1, you're probably gonna deal with very small numbers or very big numbers. Okay, so the distance from Earth to the moon is about 251,100 miles. So let's do the try questions, part A, B, and C. See if you can do it by yourself, okay? And come back when you're ready for answers. Make sure you know how to do it by yourself. Okay. Try it part A. Find 0.08% of 720. This 0.08% is less than 1%. So this in decimal is 0.0008. So if you multiply 0.0008 times 720, that is 0.08% of 720. And remember, off means multiply. Okay. So if you multiply those numbers, you should get 0.576. 0.576 is your answer for A. Part B, 162.5%. What is that in decimal? In decimal, 100% is 1. So this is going to be greater than 1. 1.625 is your decimal of the percentage. If you multiply by 200, you get 325, and that is your answer. Okay, and I'm giving you shortcuts, but if you don't get it, you should draw a bar diagram, set up a proportion, and solve them. But if you know why this works, yes, this also works. If you change the percentage to decimal and multiply that by your number, that's your answer. Okay, because of means multiply. All right, 0.3% in decimal is 0.003. Just make sure that you convert the percentage into decimal correctly. Okay, 0.003 times 60 is 0.18. And so the answer for C is 0.18. Okay. All right. So in this lesson, we learned how to analyze percents of numbers. A percent is one way to represent the relationship between two quantities, generally that of a part to the whole, but it could be greater than the whole. Okay. All right, that was lesson 1. I'll see you in the next lesson. Thanks for watching. Bye.